How do I, as just some random guy, know that Premier David Eby and the BC NDP know that they are very likely to lose the British Columbia provincial election on October 19th? Well, they're wasting legal resources trying to force the BC Conservatives to change their name on the official election ballots. This is being reported by Rob Shaw this morning. He says, New, the BC NDP are in court this morning demanding Elections BC force the British Columbia Conservative Party to change its name on the election ballot from Conservative Party to BC Conservatives. This is a bit of a thread. I want to read a bit more of it as I go through this video, but wow, that's insecure. And really, what this is showing is that the federal Conservatives are a really popular brand, and they do not want the BC Conservatives being associated with that brand. And there's nothing wrong with the BC Conservatives just presenting themselves on the ballot as Conservative Party, because it is the only Conservative Party running in this provincial election. It's not tricking people because people know when they show up and vote in a provincial election, it's a provincial election. The BC NDP on the ballots, I believe, display themselves as BC NDP. The reason they do that is because federally, Jagmeet Singh and the federal NDP are not popular. And so why do they get to be specifically designated as BC NDP and they're not just forced to be NDP? The BC thing is just a nonsensical signifier in a certain sense because everyone knows they live in British Columbia and it is a provincial election. Again, it's just proving that the BC NDP know they're behind, but because they have a big election budget, they can pay their legal team to just harass the Conservatives in court and try and make these minor changes in order to maybe give themselves an advantage in tight ridings. I really don't think it's going to work. And frankly, this is just following a big mistake that the NDP had already made. The BC NDP and the media that likes the BC NDP have been comparing John Rusted to the federal Conservatives for several months now. I don't know why they thought it was going to hurt them, but remember back when Angelo Isidoro, the overall campaign manager for the Conservatives, and then Anthony Koch, their main spokesman, went after the Tyee and the CBC for asking slanted questions and sending them ridiculous requests for comment. And then the media and the NDP started saying, oh, wow, they're attacking the media just like Pierre Poilievre and the federal Conservatives. One, they weren't attacking the media. They were pushing back on dishonest questions. And two, thanks for comparing us to the federal Conservatives. That helps a lot. The BC Conservatives would love nothing more than to be associated with the federal Conservatives. And there's no reason that they shouldn't be associated with them. They have very much the same policies on many of the same issues. The differences between the provincial party and the federal party mostly just run through the fact that the BC Conservatives focus on mainly BC issues. And there's some other smaller issues that the federals will focus on that just aren't relevant to British Columbia. And so, do I think that the BC NDP are even going to get this change to be made? No, because the NDP obviously should have been able to say NDP on the ballot. That's perfectly fine. The BC Liberal Party used to be called BC Liberals, but they also wanted to be just known as, in brackets, formerly the Liberal Party when they changed the name to United on the ballot. You're allowed to present your party in any way that's not dishonest. This is not dishonest. It is the Conservative Party. If you go up to a voter and they are voting Conservative, they're not going to say, I am voting for the British Columbia Conservative Party. They'll just say, I'm voting Conservative. And so when people go to the ballot box or when people go to the voting booth and they're checking off their ballot, they want to select the simplest option that says, I'm voting Conservative, not I'm voting for the Conservative Party of British Columbia, and then in brackets, not associated with the Federals. If the NDP could get that, I think they would want that. This is not the federal party. If you like Pierre Poilievre, you might not want to vote for these people. Whatever. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. But I want to keep reading on from what Robert Shaw had started off here with. He says, arguments from the BC NDP is that the Conservatives are trying to confuse the public with the federal party and should just run on this the party name Conservative Party of BC. However, name on the ballot in 2023 by-election was Conservative Party, and name in 2020 was just Conservative. I'm not a lawyer, but there's nothing in my read of the Election Act and past elections that forbids a party from picking whatever name it wants on the ballot. Argument will be whether it's confusing. Court activity happens this morning. hope for ruling this week. And if they rule in favor of the BC NDP, fire that judge, because this is a ridiculous argument to make. I don't think a judge is going to side with them, because again, you're not required to name yourself some specific thing so that people don't associate you with another thing. The whole point is that conservative parties across Canada call themselves conservative parties because they want to be associated with conservatism. Is it that cheating now that we are associated in kind with each other? People might think that you're the UK Tories. People might think that you're the Conservative Party of New York City, which is an actual thing. No, people are going to assume that they're voting for the Conservative Party that is running in the provincial election. I don't know why I have to explain this, but I guess when the NDP gets involved in anything, the explanations have to get more detailed and slower. Anyways, that should be it for me today, guys. If you live in British Columbia, make sure you vote as early as possible. We want to make sure, and when I say this, I just mean conservatives in general around Canada. We always want to make sure that we have as much of our vote in before election day as possible, because it keeps the lines smaller on October 19th. It makes it so that people aren't going to line up. It's an hour and a half. Person looks at their watch, says, I'm going to go to work, or, maybe I'll do it on my way home, and they're too tired on the way home. Make sure you vote early, because people who don't think about voting early are going to be less likely to vote if the lines are super long. So make it as easy as other people to vote. Vote when it's convenient for you. Right now, when it's early, but make sure it is early. That's it for me today, guys. Have a good one.